This project is focused on integrating multiple data sources for decision making. The members in our group were Jonathan Barler, Taylor Kennedy, Celeste Morgan, and Avis Sampson. Throughout this presentation, we're going to be looking at four main areas of data that are used for decision making. Those areas are demographics, perception, student learning, and school processes. We'll also be showing how they are all interconnected and how they can be used together to make decisions. The first area that we'll take a look at is data from demographics. Demographic data answers the continuous school improvement question, who are we? It helps to establish the current context of the school and describe trends which help educators predict and plan for the future. Demographic data also allows us to understand the relevance of the other measures in regards to school improvement and specific populations. It allows us to go deeper into our analysis in such things as student achievement as we look at various groups of students and teachers in the school. For instance, 60% proficiency on an assessment for an entire group does not tell the story for the performance of the subgroups. The data would have to be further analyzed and disaggregated into demographic data to better understand what that means. Demographics describes human population characteristics. Typically, demographic data in education includes things like what you see on the screen. Things like the number of students with special needs, the number of English learners, the number of students who drop out, different ethnicities, races, or religious beliefs. This information allows us to review what was done or happened in the past, address the current needs or activities in the present, and to plan for the future in the continuous cycle of school improvement. Demographic data also tells us about the school or the school system, the procedures and systems that are in place to create the whole. For instance, demographic data can provide the enrichment activities or clubs that students self-select to join. It can also show the mission, vision, and philosophy of a school with things like student discipline rate, students identified for exceptional student services, STEM classes. When reviewing demographic data, two questions should be asked. What do we want it to look like, and how do we get there? Faculty should know and be aware of their school demographic data. Several types of data should be gathered. Community data, which includes things like location, history, economic base, and populations. School district data, with things like the history and numbers and types of schools. Other data that should be gathered include class sizes, numbers and types of school faculty and staff, things like principals, teachers, paraprofessionals, and extracurricular activities. It should include demographic data for students over time and by grade level, including attendance, mobility, and language fluency. And staff over time demographic data would include things like ethnicity, gender, degrees, educational levels, home language, and socioeconomic status. A school's data profile will contain that demographic information, along with the other types of data that we'll be talking about in a moment. Besides being used for the continuous cycle of school improvement planning at a school site, demographics can also be the focus of studies. Here are some examples. Green conducted a study of the relationships between teachers using evidence-based practices and the rates in which those practices occurred across demographic groups, like race and disability. LaBouffe and Fantuzzo conducted a study to assess the relation between school mobility and early reading achievement. Findings indicated that students with a higher mobility rate had lower reading achievement scores at the end of each grade compared to children who did not change schools. Alter conducted an update to research about the perceptions of specific challenging behaviors that teachers find to be most prevalent or problematic. This study analyzed the role of teacher demographics, like gender, race, grade level, and years of experience, on their perceptions of specifically defined challenging behaviors. And finally, Epler and Ware explored using family assessment tools to support students' academic achievement and their families within a school context. Over time, demographics data indicate changes in the context of the school, the impact of the demographic factors, various groups of students, and also the students' experiences at school. The second type of data is data from perceptions. Perceptions are important sources of data because they inform how we think, what we say, and how we behave. As Bernhardt suggests, our perceptions shape our reality. Here are some examples of the kinds of perception questions a practitioner might ask. Things like, is decision making collaborative? Are instructional materials adequate and in good condition? Does scheduling allow for collaboration among teachers? Considering perceptions is relevant to continuous school improvement because doing so provides information about a school's culture, climate, and organizational processes. Perceptions reveal the alignment, or lack thereof, between these processes and what stakeholders believe and value. Perceptions are powerful enough to evoke organizational change. In order to understand what people think, we need ways to ask them. Interviews allow for an in-depth understanding of beliefs and values. Interviews are based on specific questions and can be conducted through different means such as phone, in person, or online. Focus groups can be seen as group interviews. A difference is that more consideration is given to the demographics of the participants. Bernhardt pointed out that focus groups should not only be representative of a target population, but groups should be homogeneous. The idea is that participants are more likely to be truthful and forthcoming in the presence of other people who share similar values. Questionnaires are high in reliability due to their design. They can be piloted and re-administered for effective data collection. Furthermore, questionnaires allow for respondents to remain anonymous and can illustrate changes in perceptions over time. Separately, both perceptions and demographics provide data on changes within a school occurring over time. When considered together, they allow practitioners to compare and contrast the school experiences of different groups of students. Next, let's review data from student learning. Student learning is a measure of a student's proficiency in a subject. With student learning, we take a look at how well a student is doing compared to how well they should be doing at that point in time. We use this data to see if teachers are meeting students' needs, to show areas of strength, and areas that need improvement as well. It's important that student learning is not a one-time picture, but that it's measured over time to see student growth. A variety of common assessments are used to measure student learning. In the classroom, teachers often use homework, student performance, and grades to measure learning. With testing, we often use things like standardized tests or certification exams to get that student learning data. Another type is progress monitoring, where we take a look if students are meeting benchmarks or meeting outcomes. Here you can see how student learning perceptions and demographics are connected. Success and failure of student learning will affect the perception of a school. The students themselves will see their results and draw their own conclusion. You can also look at student learning perceptions and demographics together to do ongoing monitoring to determine the challenges that students and faculty face. A fourth type of data is school processes data. These processes are one of the only pieces of data that a school can completely control because the school's staff determines the school processes. School processes data includes the actions taken by administrators and teachers to help the school serve its purpose. They are the procedures and customs that help a school make progress or prevent progress. There are four main types, but schools sometimes have more. The four main types are instructional, organizational, continuous school improvement, and administrative. Instructional processes include the strategies that teachers use in the learning environment, the strategies in the classroom. Organizational processes include various school structures, like teams and committees that are formed to help implement the school's vision. Continuous school improvement processes are the structures a school has to focus on school improvement. And administrative processes are the various tasks that are completed or tracked to help a school run efficiently or that are required for a school to track. This chart shows examples of the types of school tasks and actions that fall under each category of school processes data. Under instructional, it's things like differentiated instruction and technology integration. Some organizational include instructional coaching and professional learning communities. With continuous school improvement, you're looking at the type of professional learning that teachers are given and how data is analyzed at the school. And then administrative would be things like course enrollment, class schedules, teacher certification. There are additional examples available on page 82 in Bernhardt's text. When analyzing school processes data, the first thing that needs to be done is that the staff comes together to list all programs and processes currently in place at the school. Next, they take a look at that and determine what needs to be added or deleted, what stands out that is obviously missing, or is just a process that is no longer needed at the school. The third step is to analyze processes using an evaluation tool. An example is available in the Bernhardt book. Questions may include things like, what is the purpose of this process? Who is it intended to serve, or who is it not serving? How do we implement it with fidelity and integrity? To what degree is it being implemented? How do we measure the results? And finally, a school should create flow charts for each process. This allows everyone to agree upon the steps and fully understand how the process should be implemented to ensure fidelity. As we look at how school processes, demographics, perception, and student learning all fit together, you can see that school processes and student learning together can show, is a program or a process affecting learning results? When you add perception into there, you can look at the impact based on perceptions of the program and the process used. School processes and demographics go together to show different student participation in various programs or processes. And as you add perception in with demographics and school processes, you can see the processes or programs that are liked best by various groups of students. Now let's take a closer look at how we apply multiple measures. In this study by Bassi, called Worms and Ladders, the researchers used a modified game of snakes and ladders to teach students in Nigeria about proper hygiene and how to prevent disease and recognize symptoms. Nigeria faced a problem that most endemic sub-Saharan African countries faced. A mass drug administration would cure a disease that was common, but people would get reinfected again within 6 weeks. It was implausible to administer medicine so frequently. They needed to address the underlying problem of individuals being unaware of disease prevention. So they put together Worms and Ladders as a means to educate students. They took a look at demographic data, perceptions data, student learning, and processes to analyze and implement this on a larger scale. They took a look at the demographics of the participants, the perceptions of how the children viewed the world around them. They looked at the student learning by testing them on the knowledge before gameplay and again after, both 3 months after and 6 months after. And they looked at the current practices in medicine of treating illnesses and seeing how it did not actually inform the populace. By putting that all together, they were able to come up with a plan for improvement. Analyzing the data for all measures is important because it provides critical information about the school and the intersection of the different measures. In other words, a story is told via the data that's in the data profile. Using only one data type for the continuous cycle of school improvement would not provide all the information that's needed. After creating the data profile for each type of data, the following should be done. First, there should be an independent review where each faculty member analyzes each data type, the demographics, perception, school learning, and school processes. one at a time, for strengths and challenges, implications for the school improvement plan, and also to identify any other data that are needed that they wish the school had. Next, there should be a small group review, where small groups compare their strengths, challenges, implications, and the other data that's needed, recording all of that information. Third, there should be large group consensus. The small groups should share out all of their results and combine it into one comprehensive set of strengths, challenges, implications, and additional data needed. A comprehensive analysis should occur for each data type. Once the analysis has happened for each data type, the group should line up the consolidated implications and commonalities and review those as a whole. Here's another example of multiple measures being used in a research study. This study by Warren and Kelson focused on leadership coaching. In their study of the effects of leadership coaching on the knowledge and skills of administrators, the researchers led a comprehensive analysis of perception data. The majority of their data came from questionnaires, interviews, and log entries that coaches wrote over a 2-year period. From there, the researchers noted patterns and responses and compared those results against both the rise in student achievement and a list of leadership responsibilities. Implications for continuous school improvement arose as participants identified themes that increased their competency as school leaders. Each multiple measure offers data on its own, but the data can be understood on deeper levels when the measures are combined or intersected in 2 or more points. The final intersection is the 4-way intersection seen in the center of the image. This is the demographics by student learning, by perceptions, by school processes data. When all 4 are intersected, you can see what processes or programs have the greatest impact on different subgroups of students' learning according to student perceptions and is measured by student learning results. Here's an example of this 4-way intersection. Of all the students with higher than desired absentee rates, which instructional processes did they prefer, and which ultimately helped them perform well? We hope this presentation has been helpful for your understanding of utilizing multiple measures of data. You can see our references on this slide and the following.